The story kicks off in a prison located on an island in Tokyo, Japan. Inside, there's a prisoner named Shadow, who looks like Sonic. A couple of guards are keeping an eye on him. They are scared, but one of them mentions that Shadow hasn't moved in over 50 years until today. Suddenly, Shadow starts to remember someone named Maria, which wakes him up in the lab. Shadow begins to hack into the system, and the officers there can't control the situation. They try to stop him with weapons, but Shadow breaks free from his container with just one punch and teleports to the Guardian units. Once there, he takes down all the officers super quickly, moving so fast that no one can see him, almost like Goku. After that, Shadow speeds off to Tokyo. Meanwhile, on the other side, Sonic and his friends, including Maddie and Tom, decided to have a picnic. During their fun day, Sonic challenged Tails and Knuckles to a race, reminding them that he was the fastest animal in the world. As the race started, Sonic took off quickly, trying to prove himself. However, he is surprised to see Tails and Knuckles zooming ahead of him. Determined to show his true speed, Sonic pushes himself to go full throttle. He reaches the finish line in no time, but when he gets there, he is shocked to find Tails and Knuckles already waiting for him. He couldn't believe they had arrived before him. Confused, Sonic asked how they got there first. Then he discovered they were just holograms. This meant Sonic was the real winner. Excited, he rushed back to the campsite where his friends had planned a surprise party. It wasn't just any birthday, they were celebrating the day Sonic first arrived in their world, thanking him and welcoming him as part of the family. Later, Sonic and Tom go for a walk and stumble upon Sonic's old cave. Inside, they find a drawing Sonic made on his first night here, a reminder of where he came from. He gazes at the drawing. Tom mentions that he lost everyone when he was young, but he should keep their memories alive. Sonic agrees, saying they are in his lungs, but Tom clarifies that he means in his heart. Meanwhile, Shadow is on the streets of Tokyo in 2024, and he feels furious about being locked away for 50 years. Suddenly, the Guardian Force surrounds him, ready to capture him. But Shadow wants to be left in peace. Meanwhile, Sonic, Tails, and their friends are enjoying a quiet moment, when suddenly a helicopter appears. It's Director Rockwell, who knows about the alien causing trouble in Tokyo. She informs them that Commander Walter needs Team Sonic's help, so they quickly set off for Japan using Sonic's ring to create a portal. An explosion occurs, the three of them rush to the scene but are confused about what happened. Sonic warns everyone to stay alert, and just then, a car comes flying toward them. They manage to dodge it and turn to see Shadow approaching, leaving them all shocked. Sonic asks Shadow why he looks like him, but Shadow insists he doesn't resemble Sonic at all. Sonic just wants to know who Shadow is and where he came from. When Shadow starts to walk away without answering, Knuckles tries to confront him, but ends up getting beaten. Seeing this, the others think they should team up, but Shadow easily defeats all three of them and leaves with a warning. Sonic, determined, chases after Shadow, bombarding him with questions. Shadow gets really annoyed and tries to attack Sonic, but he can't stop him. They ended up on top of a tower, and their fight released so much energy that the whole city lost power. In the end, Sonic loses the fight and ends up unconscious and handcuffed. Tails reminds him that he shouldn't have gone off by himself because they're a team. They need to regroup and sneak around the city. So, they head to a kids' party. At the party, people mistake Tails for Pikachu. Then, Commander Walters shows up and explains that Shadow is similar to Sonic. He arrives on a meteorite. Scientists wanted to use Shadow's powers for good, but they discovered that his abilities were too dangerous. The project was shut down, and the scientist who worked on it was arrested along with Shadow, who became a prisoner. Very few people know about Shadow's past, so they put him in hibernation until now. Sonic realizes that someone must have freed him. Suddenly, the lights go out and a show starts, but it's just a distraction. In the background, some familiar robots attack, and they think they're from Robotnik, who is supposed to be dead. Just then, a mysterious figure on a bike showed up, took out the drones, and escaped. Commander Walters was seriously hurt, and even though Sonic tried to save him, Walters knew he wouldn't make it. Before he passed away, he gave Sonic a key which is the most powerful weapon in the world. The key was designed to be safe from falling into the wrong hands, so Sonic had to protect it. After that, Rockwell and his crew arrive, looking for the key, but it's gone. Director Rockwell saw a picture of Walters with Sonic and figured out that Sonic must have the key. Meanwhile, Team Sonic chased after the biker and discovered it was Agent Stone, Robotnik's assistant. Agent Stone claimed that Robotnik wasn't behind the attack and offered to take them to him for proof. Meanwhile, Robotnik was busy watching movies all day and even made giant dark circles. When he turned around, he saw Sonic and the others arrive here. They are also shocked to see that Robotnik is still alive. Then Agent Stone warns him about the bigger issue. There's an imposter out there using his technology. He watches a video of the robots. Then Robotnik vows to get back at the imposter. He checks their radars to track down who's been using those robots and thinks he will find him. Sonic and his friends realize that they also need to locate the person. They suggest teaming up with Robotnik, but Robotnik wants something in return, at least one of their thorns, which is a bit strange. After that, Robotnik changes back to his original form, cuts his hair, and ends up bald. He tries to wear his suit, but he can't fit into it. Meanwhile, Shadow visits the old lab where he meets Maria and remembers that when Shadow was trapped in a glass, Maria saw him and drew a picture. This drawing shows how they became friends, and it reveals all the fun times they had together, playing and causing mischief. For the first time since arriving on Earth, Shadow has someone who cares for him like a friend. While watching a movie, they hear a warning about aliens, and Shadow feels uneasy. Maria takes him out of the lab to help him feel better. Here, Shadow asks why the scientists are scared of him and why everyone thinks he's dangerous, just like what Maria heard on television. She encourages him to trust his own thoughts. In this way, their friendship grows much stronger. Suddenly, while Shadow is exploring the lab, the scientist who experimented on him appears. The scientist says he knew Shadow would come back and that he hasn't forgotten the accident they had. He wants to take revenge together. Outside the lab, Robotnik and Team Sonic arrive. Robotnik looks at the massive lab door, trying to figure out how to open it. Then Knuckles smashes it down with a punch. Shadow is ready to fight, but the scientist tells him to hold on. Knuckles feels a bit uneasy about the ruined base, and says that the ghost seems to be watching them. Agent Stone asks Knuckles if he's scared of ghosts. Knuckles replies that a warrior like him isn't afraid. But Knuckles is really scared of the ghost. He was just watching a kid's movie and was hissing in fear. They decide to go inside and find 3 paths. They form a group, but end up splitting up, with Knuckles going off on his own. Suddenly, Shadow appears in front of him and grabs him. Meanwhile, Tails and Agent Stone are together, and Shadow grabs them too. Then it's Sonic and Robotnik's turn. They enter a room where Sonic sees a photo of Maria and Shadow, and while he's looking around, Shadow grabs him. Robotnik goes into another room and finds his egg drones. To his surprise, he sees his grandfather, Geralt Robotnik, who he thought was gone. Robotnik is thrilled to see him and gives him a hug, eager to know where he's been all these years. Geralt reveals he was imprisoned in a secret place. Now, they plan to rule the world together. They head to Team Sonic and ask Shadow to take the key from Sonic. Shadow tells Sonic to hand it over, but Sonic feels foolish for not bringing it. Shadow finds the key in Sonic's pocket and takes it, giving it to Geralt. Then Geralt says my plan was to make a deal with Gun to secure my freedom in exchange for creating a powerful weapon that can attack anywhere from space. But now, Geralt's first target is Gun headquarters because they were responsible for ruining his life. Sonic hears the plan and warns that using such a weapon could harm innocent people. But Geralt doesn't care about it. And at first, they need one more key that's heavily guarded at Gun headquarters. So, they all get ready to leave. They head to Robotnik's ship and say their goodbyes, leaving behind a mini black hole that will suck up the entire base. In the chaos, Knuckles manages to grab a cable with his mouth just before getting pulled in, and Sonic uses one of Tails' rings to help them escape. Robotnik admires his grandfather, thinking they finally defeated Sonic, which he could never do. With only 4 hours left to reach Gunn's base in London, during this time, the grandfather and grandson cherish moments together, a rare opportunity after many years apart, and they find joy in each other's company. On the other hand, Tom and Maddie enjoy some peace when Sonic and his friends arrive, asking for help on the secret mission. They agreed, mostly because they were bored and needed a plan to infiltrate the London base. Sonic realizes that even with his speed, he could easily be taken out by an energy shield protecting the base. To dismiss it, Tom and Maddie need to sneak into the base and disable it from inside. There are also many traps along the way. Then Maddie suggests using the emerald, but that's risky since Knuckles is now its guardian, and anyone who tries to use it becomes his enemy. So, Tom and Maddie plan to sneak into the base and disable all the traps from inside. Meanwhile, Robotnik has arrived with his grandfather, and Shadow asks for permission to enter the headquarters. He wants to grab the key to get his revenge, but Garrel tells him to be patient because they can handle it. Team Sonic also arrives and is ready to help Tom and Maddie. Tom and Maddie need to sneak in, so Maddie uses a hologram to look like her sister Rachel, and Tom pretends to be Randall. When they reach the lobby, the guard tells them they can't go in because of security issues. Tails realizes the security is tight because of Shadow and Garrel's escape. Meanwhile, Rachel throws a fit in front of the guard, trying to get in. To avoid trouble, they decide to go inside, and Maddie's hologram changes to Rockwell to access the servers. When the real Rockwell shows up, they manage to sneak in unnoticed. They plug in a USB to turn off the shield, but it doesn't work at first. After some time, they finally get it to work. Tails move forward with the plan, but then Maddie spots another USB nearby, looks like a robot with a mustache. Then Tails sees 2 heads moving around. They had a special suit that helped them stay hidden from everyone. Robotnik and Garrel made their way to the laser room. Once they got there, Robotnik accidentally pushed his grandpa into the laser. At first, Grandpa thought he was gone, but then he realized he was totally fine. The laser couldn't hurt them because of their suit, so they started dancing like it was a party instead of a dangerous room. After their dance, they finally reached the spot where the second key was hidden. Meanwhile, Sonic gets anxious when he finds out that Robotnik and Garrel are there. He couldn't wait any longer, so he rushed out before turning off the energy shield. When he got closer, he noticed there was a small opening. He thought he could slip through, but he was wrong. Luckily, Tails showed up just in time to help him get inside. He spots Robotnik and Garrel. They're about to grab the key, but there's a trap and a gravity field that sends them crashing down. Then Sonic quickly tried to grab the key, but instead, he started floating in the air and couldn't figure out why. Then Rockwell appeared and said it was her job. Sonic tried to warn her about Garrel's plan, but Rockwell just slapped him on the head and said she already knew everything. Rockwell didn't want the keys for anything bad. She believed that if the 2 keys were with Gunn, they would become the most powerful group ever. And as they wish they can use the powerful weapon anytime. Sonic was determined to stop that from happening because he had promised to protect the keys. In the meantime, Knuckles also tried to help by breaking down the building to save them and got his hands on the remote that could control everything. But instead of using it, Knuckles tried to destroy the remote, which set off all the sensors. As a result, some people fell to the ground while others were floating in the air. A chaotic fight breaks out over the key, and as the room starts to collapse, the key falls between Rockwell and Robotnik, who are both scrambling for it. Just then, a block of cement is about to crush everyone. Sonic sees this and activates his power, rolling to break the block and saving everyone while grabbing the key. With the destruction, the gravity control is disabled. Then Tom steps in, pretending to be Commander Walters, Rockwell's boss, and orders her to hand over the other key. Rockwell is shocked to see him alive, but when Tom leaves, Shadow sees him and mistakes him for Walters. Shadow punches him hard, knocking him out and grabbing the key, only to realize later that he made a big mistake. Sonic shows up right after and finds Tom on the ground, asking him to wake up. This reminds Shadow of a moment similar to Maria's. Shadow then leaves and gives the key to Garrel, who praises him, and they decide to go after the powerful weapon that Garrel had built just as he wanted. Geralt surprises his grandson with some cool supersuits. Just then, Agent Stone calls Robotnik, worried about what Shadow said. Shadow suspects that Geralt is hiding something bad, but Robotnik doesn't believe him and takes offense. He hangs up, saying, "You're just jealous to see us together and talking so much." Then, they inserted the key and began to open the weapon, which took them from the river into space. Meanwhile, Tom was in bad condition, so they rushed him to the hospital. Tails tried to comfort Sonic, who was feeling down, but Sonic replied, "I don't need comfort right now. I just want to stop them, and I'll do anything for that." Sonic was eager to find out where the emerald was. Knuckles hesitated at first, but realized fighting among themselves wouldn't help. He said it was up to a brave warrior, and that warrior was Wade Whipple, Tom's friend. That hero was playing hockey with the powerful emerald. Sonic approached and asked, "Can I have the emerald?" Wade says, "I promise I'll protect it with my life." After grabbing it, Sonic said, "Okay, I did my best to save you." He then used the emerald to empower himself to stop Geralt's crew. Meanwhile, Geralt was getting ready with his weapon and told Shadow to do his part. Shadow questioned if he should, and he reminded him, "Don't you remember? How they ruined our lives." Shadow thought back to the day when the gun officers came to arrest them. They had tried to escape, but the officers shot at them. They had taken away his only friend, which haunted Shadow's mind. Filled with anger, Shadow starts spinning at full speed inside the ship. Then Geralt reveals his true intention, which is to use the weapon to turn the entire world into a massive fireball, which would also lead to their own destruction. Robotnik is confused and argues that they could rule the world with this power, but Geralt's goal is to eliminate all of humanity. After hearing his plan, Robotnik realizes he means nothing to him. With Shadow's mission complete, Geralt begins the countdown and notices something approaching. Suddenly, they see that it's Sonic. Sonic quickly breaks the glass and charges in, attacking Shadow for what he did to Tom. He sends Shadow back to Earth, and in the chaos, Shadow frees Sonic from the 7 gems. They both rush towards each other, each gaining part of their powers and transforming. Meanwhile, Robotnik decides to abandon the plan, but Geralt stops him. They start fighting with each other. Meanwhile, Sonic is losing, and when Shadow mentions his family, Sonic gets furious and punches him. But he can't ignore Tom's advice anymore. Shadow questions why Sonic didn't seek revenge, and then Sonic shares with Shadow that he experienced a similar hurt when he lost Long Cloud, a pain that never truly faded. However, the love and memories of her filled that emptiness. Shadow starts to think about this and realizes that his anger has clouded his judgment. Shadow realizes he made a big mistake, and they decide to work together to fix it. While they're coming, Geralt and Robotnik continue to fight like kids. During the scuffle, Robotnik manages to cut Geralt's mustache. In anger, Geralt then tosses him aside. In the meantime, Geralt notices Sonic and Shadow team up. Then he activates the ship's defenses to fight them and sends some robots to stop them. However, they are strong enough to defeat the defenses. Both of them begin to take down the robots together. At the same time, Geralt opens the gate with the intention of killing Robotnik. He kicks his hand and throws him down, feeling thrilled as he thinks he has won. However, Tails swoops in to save Robotnik. Back on the ship, Robotnik seizes the chance to grab Sonic's new powerful fork and pokes Geralt, causing him to get knocked into the energy field, which makes Geralt's life flicker out like a light. As Sonic prepares for action, they stand in front of the weapon, blocking the energetic light that shoots out from it. They pull themselves up to stop it, while Robotnik realizes that the weapon won't stop but can be redirected. They manage to turn the weapon away, but the lights still hit the moon, splitting it in two. Knuckles sees Sonic fainting and falls toward Earth. To save him, he grabs a ring and sends Tails to the rescue. Tails rushes to Sonic and tries to open a portal, but he faints too from lack of oxygen. Meanwhile, Shadow asks Robotnik if the reactor is still running. Robotnik knows the reactor is overloaded and could explode at any moment, which would be disastrous for the world. Then Shadow says to Robotnik that this is the last chance to do a good thing. So, Shadow goes outside, spreading his arms to push the ship as far from Earth as possible. Robotnik tries to stabilize the reactor, but it's no use. He speaks to Agent Stone one last time, and as Robotnik's words bring tears to Stone's eyes, the explosion occurs, taking Robotnik and Shadow with it. Knuckles manages to save Tails and reaches Earth, where they find Sonic and Tails waking up. Robotnik and Shadow sacrifice themselves to protect the planet. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles promise to be the best of friends forever, and they head back home to Tom, where everything feels normal again. Everyone starts laughing and celebrating. Then, they get back to racing to see who is the fastest among the three. After the race, Sonic is alone in the forest when he spots a robot that looks just like him, called Metal Sonic. The robot tries to attack Sonic. Then, Amy Rose shows up and defeats the robot, saving Sonic. That's how the movie wraps up. I can't give all the details, but I know that Amy has a crush on Sonic, and whether they end up together will be revealed in the next movie. How did you like today's video? If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and share it with your friends. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.